SportsChannel presents World Champion New York Mets Baseball. Brought to you by Bud Light, the light beer with a first name and taste. Everything else is just a light. By your New York, New Jersey Buick dealers, the goodbye people. By manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. By today's TWA, find out how good we really are. By Texaco, super unleaded gasoline with Petrox detergent to keep your car's power flowing. By the American Express card, membership has its privileges. Don't leave home without it. By Metropolitan Life and affiliated companies. Get Met, it pays. By the 9X Yellow Pages, it's the one you've always had, it's the only one you'll need. By Toyota and the all-new line of 1987 cars and trucks. Who could ask for anything more? And by AT&T.
Live from Shea Stadium in Flushing, New York, SportsChannel presents Mets Baseball. Tonight, the Mets take on the St. Louis Cardinals. The starting pitchers for the game. For the Cardinals, left-hander Greg Matthews with a record of 5-5. An earned run average of 4.23. And for the Mets, Dwight Gooden with a record of 4-1. An earned run average of 2.15. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Fran Healy and Tim McCarver, all set for the second game of this three-game series with the first-place Cardinals. Mets are in a tie for second place. They are 7 1/2 games back. And, Fran, this is a must game for the New York Mets.
Well, New York Mets obviously having some trouble the past two ball games, one in Philly and then one last night. I guess the Cardinals had some trouble last night, too. A chaotic night, but the Cardinals came out on top. If you're going to go in a big ball game, might as well have Dwight Gooden on the mound. And Dwight Gooden, as Ralph mentioned, is pitching for the Mets tonight. All the Mets need is a victory. They're 6.5 behind. They win 2, they're 5.5 behind.
Very simple thing right there, and the Mets need 2 wins over the St. Louis Cardinals to stay in this game and to be right there as they go to the All-Star break. We'll be back with the lineups and the start of the ball game right after these commercial messages. Well, the two managers for this very important ball game, Whitey Herzog on the left side of your screen and Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, on the right side. Whitey earlier this year won his 1,000th game as a manager. And Dwight Gooden on the mound for the Mets with a record of 4-1, an earned run average of 2.15. Dwight has worked 37 2/3 innings. He has given up 27 hits, striking out 34 and walking 14. Gooden is doing well against the St. Louis Cardinals with a record of 5-2 lifetime, an earned run average of 1.82.
And here's the Cardinal lineup tonight. Vince Coleman leading off, to be followed by Ozzie Smith and then Tommy Herr. The middle three, the always dangerous Jack Clark, Willie McGee, Terry Pendleton, and the bottom three, Kurt Ford, Tony Pena, and Greg Matthews.
And the defense, Hernandez at first, Backman at second, Santana at short, Johnson at third. McReynolds in left, Wilson in center, Mazzilli playing right field, and the catcher is Carter. Darryl Strawberry was scratched from the starting lineup when he reported with the virus, but he is available for pinch hitting duties. Jerry Davis, the home plate umpire. Dick Stella will be at first base. Steve Ripley, the umpire, at second base. And Doug Harvey, the umpire, at third. Tonight's official score, Red Foley of the New York Daily News.
Well, they get some heat in this ballpark tonight besides the weather. Right there, Dwight Gooden with a good fastball. Next door on our right, Sandy Koufax with an outstanding fastball. And then another door over, Bob Gibson.
We got some power in this broadcast area, haven't we? Power pitching.
Power pitching.
And we've got an outstanding crowd here tonight on a summer night for baseball. Sandy Koufax stopping by to say hello, now living in Idaho. Says he does some skiing in the wintertime.
There's Bob Gibson. Now, the Cardinals rely on speed. Right there, that guy, Bob Gibson, as great a pitcher as he was, has more stolen bases than any other pitcher in the history of baseball. He has 13 SBs. And number 2 is a guy named Rip Sewell, famous for the Ephus pitch. But apropos, the Cardinals with this great base-stealing club, and there's a guy with the record for stealing bases as a pitcher.
And he also is a fine basketball player, having played for the Harlem Globetrotters at one time.
I think if you play a lot of sports as a youngster, they all complement each other. I don't think you should concentrate on one specific sport.
Here's a fella coming up, Vince Coleman, who was just about to become a professional football player. He was a kicker in college and
strong legs.
Took a road to baseball, and he certainly took a fast road to baseball. Vince Coleman to lead it off.
Number 29.
Coleman hitting .292 this year with no home runs, 22 RBIs. In 50 consecutive games, he was on base in all 50 of the games in that streak. Coleman 1 for 4 in last night's ball game. Walked, stole second, and scored the winning run of the game. Batting .286 against the Mets with 8 hits and 28 at bats. No home runs, 2 runs batted in.
The way this guy can run, he should be a 300 hitter every year.
And the first pitch by Gooden, a fastball. Coleman leads the National League in stolen bases with 50.
He should never hit the ball up in the air.
Coleman not doing too well against Dwight Gooden. He's had 5 hits and 30 at bats. He's a man you don't want on the bases, and this ball sliced down and off the glove of Johnson at third base. Coleman rounds at first and holds there, so Coleman is on.
I'll tell you, that's the one guy at Ralph Bench you don't want on base. Right here, ball hit down to Howard Johnson, probably spinning away. I had to have a funny spin away his hit. If you're a pitcher, boy, you want Howard Johnson to catch that ball. They're going to give him a hit.
Base hit for Vince Coleman. Vince Van Gogh, they call him. 50 stolen bases. And the batter now for St. Louis is Ozzie Smith. Smith hitting .288 for the year with no home runs, 42 RBIs. Coleman a good lead at first, draws the throw, just does get back. Gooden has picked off 2 runners so far this year. This is his 6th game start. Picked off R.J. Reynolds of the Pirates and Herm Winningham of the Montreal Expos.
Well, Gooden does feature a better pickoff motion to first base, but you're going to steal on a power pitcher because he kicks so high. And he can't take away from that because you're taking away from the most important thing, and that's throwing the ball in the direction of the hitter.
He delivers the ball at 1.7 to the plate.
He's always going to kick high. You got to stay with him.
1.7 seconds, and that pitch in for a called strike.
The fastest I've ever seen on a right-handed pitcher with a high leg kick, and I emphasize the high leg kick, is Jeff Reardon. I couldn't believe how fast he kicked that leg high and got the ball home.
So a 1-strike count with Coleman at first base, just underway here at Shea. Glad you're with us, and again a throw to first. Again, it's close.
There's a theory, if you throw first base a lot on a guy that can run, and you make him dive back, especially the guy that has to dive back, you tend to tire him out as far as the next pitch trying to steal a base. I know Bert Campaneris was like that. Now, I'm not so sure you can do it to Coleman.
And again, over to first. It's close. Coleman asks for time and gets it from first base umpire Dick Stello.
Well, obviously, Coleman rattles everybody on a defensive ball club. And right there, getting back as Keith Hernandez dropped the ball. Very, very close. He would have been safe anyways.
Very good throw over to first base by Gooden, right on the bag. Now Coleman with time call works out the dirt.
I'd throw over there again and make him dive back in again and then go home.
Cardinals have had 115 stolen bases this year. They lead the National League by a large margin. They have tried it 152 times.
They've led the major league in stolen bases 18 times, a league record.
Both the second baseman and shortstop. And Allman giving the signs as to who's covering. The pitch out, but nothing on. And the count 1 ball, 1 strike. Both Santana and Allman, the double play combination, shortened up considerably. Ozzie Smith, not a hard hitter. Ozzie against Goodman has hit very well, hitting .313 against him. And again, a throw over to first in the dirt that time. Good pickup by Hernandez.
Looked like Coleman with that shot of him leading off first base. In his eyes, it looked like he was tentative as far as Gooden's move towards first. He knows Gooden has a good move to first, and he also knows that he can get a good jump if he goes home. Just have to pick the right pitch.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. And a breaking ball, but it was inside, 2-1.
Coleman has the upper hand, there's no doubt about it, on first base. When he's on first base against any ball club, he has the upper hand. The catcher's over anxious. And when you're over anxious, you tend to throw the ball and start sailing and dipping.
Ozzie Smith with a 6-game hitting streak, the hitter, on deck batter Tommy Herr. And now Coleman makes a good bluff. It's hit up the middle, should be a double play. They get one and the other. So Coleman bluffing, not going, and that cost him. And they pick up the double play.
And, of course, it cost them, but the thing that helped the Mets was Gooden's move to first base. Here's Coleman. He bluffs, he stops, the chopper to second base, Backman to Santana, and they get to first. That's a clean slide. He had a chance to reach second base.
He never
bluffs.
You think he can reach second base? He couldn't touch the bag at second.
Sure he could. With his hand?
No way.
Okay, put the money up. Give us another angle.
Look at that. He's not even close
but
to
he could
second.
still touch it.
Come on.
Yo, put the money up.
So now 2 men away, and the batter is Tommy Hurd. And this ball hit down to the second baseman. He thrown to first base by Backman, and that'll do it. So a hit and no one left on base to score at the end of 1/2 inning. The Cardinals, nothing. The Mets coming up. Matthews on the mound for the Cardinals, a record of 5-5, an home run average of 4.23. Matthews has worked 78 2/3 innings, giving up 74 hits, striking out 41 and walking 39. And lifetime against the Mets, he's won 2 and lost 2.
In the lineup, Mookie Wilson, Wally Backman, Keith Hernandez, then Gary Carter, Kevin McReynolds, Lee Mazzilli, who's replacing Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry out with an infection tonight. Howard Johnson, Rafael Santana, and then Dwight Gooden.
Clark, Herr, Smith, and Pendleton first to third in the infield. Coleman, McGee, and Ford in the outfield left to right. The catcher is Pena. And the first pitch to Mookie Wilson. And it's hit high in the air in foul territory. Pendleton going over by the Cardinal dugout, having some trouble with it, but making the fine play. Pendleton might be the best I've ever seen on foul balls.
He gets over to where he has to get, and then he looks, he sees the ball, he gets over there, and then he makes the adjustment. It's a lot easier to make the adjustment once you're there, and Pendleton doing it well. I'll tell you, Ralph, as a hitter, as a home run hitter, that must have been a thing that broke your heart when you fouled out to a first base. Oh! Or a check swing with the bases loaded or something. You know, where you try to hold up.
And in Pittsburgh, they had a tremendous amount of foul ball territory. Now the batter, Wally Backman, and he takes a fastball high. Backman hitting .257 for the year with no home runs, 8 runs batted in. Wally hitting .200 against Cardinal pitching this year, 2 for 10. And he takes a strike, 1 ball, 1 strike. Backman, as a right-hand batter, hitting only .059. He's had 1 base hit in 17 at-bats as a right-hand batter. And the off-speed pitch for ball 2, 2 balls and 1 strike.
Well, last night's ball game was like a barroom brawl. You didn't know who was going to win.
Mets up 3-0, then it was tied at 3-3. Then the Mets got up 4, make that 7-3, 4 runs up, and then lost it in the 11th inning. There's one out of the strike zone, ball 3.
It was an exciting ball game, though.
Really exciting.
It really was. How about Pendleton throwing the ball in the dugout?
That's one everybody missed. TV cameras. He thought time had been called. We'll talk about that in a minute. Foul ball out of play. He got the ball at third. Noticed a scuff mark on the ball. Showed it to the umpire. Steve Ripley, I believe the umpire was, and he thought Ripley had called time, so he flipped the ball into the Cardinal dugout. And the Mets got an extra run.
That's a first, huh?
I never heard of that one.
That's my type of game.
So Backman walks, and the Mets have a base runner with 1 man out, with Keith Hernandez coming up. Keith, 1 for 5 last night. But the 1 hit, a 3-run home run in the first inning. Keith now with 10 home runs, 36 runs batted in, batting .301. Keith has had a home run in each of his last 2 ball games.
Keith might pop 20 over the wall this year.
Very easily could.
Talk about the home run ball, and yet there's a pitcher in the American League that has an outside shot of winning 30 ball games. Brett Saberhagen.
And the first pitch to Hernandez, a fastball, a called strike. Keith hitting .321 against the Cardinals with that 1 home run last night and 8 runs batted in. 9 for 28. Backman, the runner at first base. And the breaking ball is swung on and missed, strike 2. Mets as a team hitting .268, 3rd in the National League. The Cardinals, number 1, have a team batting average of .286. They also lead in runs scored with 420. Mets had 356 runs scored. Paulie calling card to first. Craig Matthews with a lifetime record of 16-13. He started the season with the Cardinals, as then was sent down to Louisville. Throw over to first. He was brought back on May 30th, and since then he has a record of 3-2 in 6 game starts.
It was surprising when they sent him down to the minor leagues. He pitched well for him last year.
Last year as a rookie, he won 11 and lost 8. The only rookie pitcher in the National League to win more, Jim Jesses, who won 12.
Do you know there's only been one, well, there have been a number of rookie pitchers to win 20 games, but only one guy who won 20 games won the Rookie of the Year award, Bob Grimm.
Of the Yankees, and the pitch back swung on and missed, and Hernandez has struck out.
Good pitch right there from Craig Matthews.
So now 2 men out, and the batter will be Gary Carter.
Here's that pitch again. Took something off the breaking ball. Keith was right on the pitch, and at the last moment, he swung right through the ball.
So Carter stepping in. Carter hitting .245 for the year with 9 home runs, 37 RBIs. 1 for 6 last night. And he was the last out of the game for the Mets. Struck out. And the fastball is missed. Carter hitting only .120 against the Cardinals this year with 3 hits and 25 at-bats.
Gary's still struggling.
Center a long way out there. Kurt Ford to the warning track, and he hauls it in. So Ford stepping on the gas and pulling that one down. The Mets leave 1 on a walk, and the score at the end of 1, the Cardinals nothing, the Mets nothing. Dwight Gooden on the mound for the Mets gave up a hit in the first, but a double play erased Vince Coleman, who singled off the glove of Howard Johnson at third. And now here at the top of the second, it'll be Jack Clark to lead it off.
Look at that crowd. Big crowd on here. Another big crowd expected tomorrow night. Packing them in at Shea. Very, very important. I guess it would be trite to say it's important to win this ball game. Here you have your money pitcher on the line. How many times in his young career have the Mets looked to Dwight Gooden in a pressure situation?
He has won 62 and lost only 20 in his major league career. And the pressure has been on since he came up.
It's a shame, really, the world didn't see the real Dwight Gooden last year in the World Series, because he rises to the occasion in games like that.
Here's a fellow that rises to the occasion as long as he stays healthy. He's hitting .310 with 23 home runs, 71 runs batted in. 1 for 5 last night. He's hit 2 home runs against the Mets. Got 1 in last night's ball game. And the fastball a strike.
Now, Ralph, a lot of the great hitters stand right up on the plate. You advocate that particular approach to hitting. This guy stands away from the plate really with a closed stance.
And again, the pitch is outside. Of course, where he is in that batter's box, you pitch him away, he has to hit it to right field.
So you can't say this is the only way to hit. There are other ways to swing the bat.
And he hits this one late, fouls it back out of play. Rogers Hornsby, the greatest right-hand batter of all time, hit from deep in the batter's box and moved it in the ball, but he was a straightaway hitter.
Roger Maris was that type of hitter. He used to stride right into the pitch, not as far away from the plate.
2 strikes to count. And he just does miss outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I'll tell you a guy that's on top of the plate, and he proved it. Don Baylor
leads the all-time hit by pitches in the history of the game. And the breaking ball is high, 2-2.
I think Baylor about 244 times.
Last time was 244 to break the record held by Ron Hunt.
Here's that hook again, boy. That'll get you. That wasn't a bad pitch. I think Clark got a break. I think anytime that curveball's up, umpires tend to call that a ball rather than the one that really has a good snap and breaks. Maybe the belt high or down lower, they tend to call that a strike.
There's a good one there. Goodbye. So Clark, 4 for 22 against Dwight Gooden. Looks at that good curveball, and that was a hacker.
And that was down. If you watch that pitch, that Watch the breaking ball. Home plate umpire calls it a strike, and that ball was down around knee level. Umpires tend to call that pitch down there a strike. The breaking ball especially, more so than the high breaking ball.
So one away here in the second, and Willie McGee the batter. Willie has hit very well against Gooden, and he looks at a curve for ball one. McGee hitting .353 against Dwight Gooden. Overall, McGee hitting .292 for the year with 5 home runs, 56 RBIs. And a good fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. McGee 2 for 6 last night.
You're going to see that heater right now. Up and out over the plate.
1-1 pitch, a strike call, and it's 1-2.
I would say umpires, especially with an inside protector, and everybody has to wear it now, will call that pitch from the letters down or from the belt down a strike more so than from the belt up.
And the fastball for a ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Jerry Davis behind the plate with that inside protector.
Two and 2 the count. Curveball hit right back to Gooden, and somehow or other he makes the play. How did he do it? Boy,
good athlete. Plays a lot of basketball. Good reaction right here. Bang, right back at Gooden. Plays a lot of basketball and a lot of softball, Ralph. You don't see that too much with a Major League Baseball player in the offseason playing softball.
Well, he made some sort of a catch right there, almost to save his life. And that brings up Terry Pendleton. And the fastball for a ball. Pendleton hitting .312 this year, and amazingly with 5 home runs. 43 RBIs.
Talk about this guy being traded during spring training to the Montreal Expos.
And a good fastball by Gooden, 1-1. Tim Wallach was mentioned in that trade. Pendleton, an outstanding defensive player.
I'll tell you, Wallach wouldn't have been too bad with this Cardinal ball club.
Another fastball, 1-2.
That's all they would have needed, Wallach and Clark. Of course, they miss Andujar. Andujar said he and Clark were the 2 power hitters. Everybody else was a leadoff hitter.
That's what he said, the pitcher. He said everybody else was a singles hitter.
Just he and Jack Clark. Oh, he used to take a rip. Never made contact, but took a great rip.
Didn't want to walk. 2 and 2. Fastball foul back.
I think if he didn't flip out during the World Series against the Kansas City Royals, he'd still be with the Cardinals.
Last year, Pendleton had 1 home run. 1985, he had 5. He has 5 already this year. Fastball fouled into the stands, so the count stays at 2 and 2. Andujar, one of the all-time characters of baseball.
Now with the Oakland A's. How about McGuire? Speaking of the Oakland A's.
Some sort of hitter.
Jeez.
Hit 5 home runs in 2 games to tie a Major League record.
27 home runs this year.
Good curveball right off the table. And Gooden has struck out 2 and has worked a 1-2-3 inning. And the score at the end of 1.5 innings, the Cardinals nothing, the Mets nothing.
Well, SportsChannel keeps you up to date on the world of New York sports throughout each weeknight with our SportsChannel Tonight updates, and immediately following tonight's game, an expanded edition of New York Sports Nightly. Go ahead, Ralph.
And it's Kevin McReynolds to lead it off. Curveball for a strike.
By the way, on that Sports Nightly, a profile of Cardinals slugger Jack Clark, and Mike Marley will talk with Mike Tyson. And at SportsChannel Tonight, in the expanded wrap-up edition of New York Sports Nightly, only on SportsChannel, the official channel of New York Fan. And tonight, you're going to have Mets highlights, and you'll have Yankee highlights.
Back to the fastball, and that's a ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. McReynolds hitting .282 with 14 home runs. 41 runs batted in. Kevin 1 for 4 in last night's ball game. The off-speed pitch, and he just waited for that changeup and hit it textbook style to left field.
He buggy whipped that bat with a 1-2 count. He waited well on that pitch.
That's right.
Here it is again.
13, Lee Mazzilli.
Stays up in the strike zone, and McReynolds going right into the ball. If you remember in spring training when we did some ball games in Florida, McReynolds was on his heels through most of spring training. Now he's on the balls of his feet, swinging the bat very well.
And it brings up Lee Mazzilli playing in right field. Lee hitting .333, 2 home runs, 15 runs batted in. He's batting .333 left-handed and .333 right-handed. And the fastball a strike. Lee has hit 2 home runs this year, both from the right-hand side of the plate.
I think he's an example of the mental approach to the game. When he was with the Pirates, he didn't want to be in Pittsburgh. He wasn't the player he is today with the Mets.
Started his career with the Mets, and he tops that one down to second. I should say to third. The throw to second in time for the force play. And McReynolds is out. Good play at second by Tommy Hurt.
Here's Pendleton fielding the ball off the bat of Mazzilli. Mazzilli runs too well to turn a double play right here, and of course McReynolds taking her out of the play.
Now the batter is Howard Johnson. Johnson hitting .259, 15 home runs, 40 runs batted in, and that's ball 1. Johnson 1 for 4 last night. Johnson in his last 11 games with 15 hits, hitting .366, 4 of those hits home runs. He's had 7 runs batted in. Check swing, little roller towards short. Tough play for Pendleton. He can't get it. And that should go as an infield base hit.
Well, Pendleton cutting in front of Ozzie Smith right there to make the play, and it would have been a tough play. Johnson checking his swing. He picked up a base hit and a check swing last night. Pendleton coming way over to cut it. Well, I don't know. Maybe Ozzie Smith had a shot at him at first base, Ralph.
He had the only shot.
Yeah, Pendleton ranging far to his left. They tell you if you can cut in front of the shortstop, do it. I would say that's a good point, except in the case here when you have Ozzie Smith at short.
And now the batter will be the Mets shortstop, Rafael Santana, hitting .259, 4 home runs, 21 RBIs, and that's ball 1. Santana 1 for 5 last night. He's hitting .290 over his last 40 games. Ball 2, 2-0. If you ever had any evidence to present about the lively ball, you could use Santana's case. In his first 3 years in the major leagues, he had 1 home run each of his first 3 years. This year he has 4. Big swing at a fastball, didn't get it. 2-1.
Santana's the only guy in baseball when he hits a home run, everybody gets on him. Everybody talks about the lively ball.
2 balls, 1 strike. And a ground ball should be 2. Smith over to her and on to first for the double play. So each side has turned a double play. That ends the inning. The Mets waste 2 hits and leave 1, and the score at the end of 2. It's the Cardinals nothing, the Mets nothing. Well, we're going to the top of the 3rd, no score. And for the Cardinals, it'll be Kurt Ford to lead it off. Dwight Gooden on the mound for the Mets. In his last 20 innings, he has allowed only 2 earned runs. The 2 earned runs were back-to-back home runs by Glenn Wilson and Lance Parrish of the Philadelphia Phillies. The first time in Gooden's career that anyone ever hit back-to-back home runs off of him. Ford hitting .331, 3 home runs, 19 RBIs. Hitting .444 against the Mets this year, 4 for 9. Gooden with 2 strikeouts. Starts off with a good curve, strike 1. Both of his strikeouts coming on curveballs. Or if you can start off a hitter with a curve in the strike zone, you really got the advantage.
How about if you're behind on the hitter and throw it for a strike.
Got a bigger advantage. Back to the fastball. It's ripped into right field. So Ford driving that one out to right field for a base hit. Second hit off Gooden. The first by Vince Coleman. Coleman was erased on a double play, and that brings up Tony Pena.
You need a fast bat to play in the big leagues. Ford has one. Well, he turned on that fastball. He did it in a hurry.
Number 26.
So a runner at first with no one out, and Pena's the batter. Pena hitting .275, 1 home run, 19 runs batted in. Pena against Gooden hitting .083, 2 hits and 24 at bats.
With Pena catching for the Pirates last year, the Pirates led the league in wild pitches. Ordinarily, a guy like Pena, the way he moves around, you figure he'd keep everything in front of him.
You really got to be wild to lead the league with him catching.
Yeah. No, boy, I'll tell you, he can move around the best.
And a throw to first base. Ford is back. Ford with 9 stolen bases in 13 attempts. Scoreless ball game. No one on top of the third. Both sides have had 2 hits. Good in a long hold and back with a fastball for ball 1. Davey Johnson, Mel Stoudemire checking the lineup card. Runner goes. The ball is fouled off on the hit run play.
Pena tried to hit the ball towards right field. I think baseball is tending to shy away from that philosophy, and what they like you to do is when a guy's put in motion is hit the ball. Hit the ball hard, and preferably if you can do it on the ground, but to take a shot behind the runner, I don't think they call for that anymore. But Pena did. He took a shot behind the runner. I mean, if you can pull it off, you're limiting your options by trying to hit the ball between second and first, and it's not an easy thing to do.
And of course, a right field hitter, and they play him as though he were a left-hand batter.
And Santana covered on that.
1 ball, 1 strike. Again, a throw to first, and Keith Hernandez having to handle that 90-mile-an-hour throw with that first baseman's glove. That stings.
Of course, I would have to say that Keith has a knack of catching that ball more so in the webbing than towards the palm of the hand.
And the fastball again for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes.
In fact, if you catch a ball and you're behind the plate and you catch a pitcher throwing the ball 90 miles per hour and you catch the ball properly, as you look at Greg Matthews, it really won't sting your hand, and you don't have to use a sponge or anything like that. It's just the hand's a little bit out of the glove, and the ball hits right above the hand closer to the webbing of the glove. And of course, the reason you can do it as a catcher is because you have the break in the glove similar to a first baseman's glove. But you throw that ball that hard at Wally Backman covering second base, he's going to catch it in the palm of his glove because he uses the smallest glove made in baseball.
Like Joe Morgan.
Right. I think Rawlings makes the smallest glove, and I believe Wally Backman uses a Rawlings model.
2-1 the count. The runner goes, and the ball hit down to Hernandez. He shoots it at short. It's picked up by Santana, and he made some sort of play at second base. The throw by Keith Hernandez was in the dirt. And
ordinarily, Keith has great judgment right here. The runner taking off, and he's sick. Well, that was a great play by Santana to pick that ball. And Keith, I think he did not get back to first base. I guess he assumed Gooden was going over there, but Keith wasn't that far off the base. He throws it, and he stays right there because he was upset at himself that he bounced the ball, and probably upset at himself that he took a shot at the runner at second base.
And the throw, of course, arrived late, so everybody's safe on the fielder's choice. That brings up Greg Matthews in a bunting situation. Hernandez right on top of the batter, and they throw the pitch high for ball 1. So the Cardinals have something going here with no one out in the third, runners at first and second. Matthews the batter. Matthews, as a hitter, a good hitter, he's had 7 hits and 27 at-bats, and he's driven in 2 runs. Play on at second as Santana comes over to cover, but no throw. The Mets do not use the rotation play where the shortstop covers third and the third baseman charges on the bunt. Santana right on the bag, trying to hold that runner as close as possible. And again, the fastball for ball 2.
Tough for Matthews to handle that fastball. It's up. Toughest pitch to bunt, especially a fastball from Gooden.
Two balls, no strikes. And Gooden misses high again, and it's 3-0. So now the Cardinals putting themselves into a good picture here. 3-0 on the batter. And a walk here would load up the bases. And he walks him on 4 pitches. So the bases are loaded with no one out. That'll bring up Vince Coleman. Coleman with an infield base hit his first time up as Waddy Herzog looks on unperturbed. Davy Johnson might look unperturbed, but inside he's churning. This game, a big game for the New York Mets. They're 7.5 games behind the Cardinals. If they lose this one, it would be 8.5. So the base is loaded. The Mets have set up a double play depth. And the breaking ball in there for a called strike.
Remember Dwight Gooden's first outing back in St. Petersburg? He got clobbered by the Cardinals.
7 runs in the first inning.
I've got to believe that as insignificant as that first game of spring training ordinarily is, that helped the Cardinals. Their confidence against Dwight Gooden.
And that pitch is taken low, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Mets went into St. Louis last year and won 4 straight, and that was the end of the Cardinals.
And that was the night Howard Johnson hit the home run off of Todd Worrell.
Tied up the ball game.
He turned the season around.
This year, the Cardinals have won 6 of the 7 games played with the Mets. Right back to the middle. It could be a double play. It will be. The Cardinals get a run as Ford scores on the double play.
Get a picture of that because you don't see that too often. And that's the only way you can double up Coleman. Hit it at second base. Have the shortstop go over, catch the ball, and tag the base.
Shortstop.
Santana does a nice job.
Smith.
And he gets a double play, and a big, big double play. Because you just don't double that guy up, Coleman. And the Mets might get out of this inning only allowing 1 run.
Pena crosses over to third on the DP. And now the batter will be Ozzie Smith. And the breaking ball over a called strike. Ozzie grounded into a double play his first time up. No run batted in for Coleman, as you cannot get a run batted in when you hit into a double play. And it's topped out to the third base side. It rolls down the line. They're going to let it roll, and it goes foul. And a little lightning flashing out in center field. And now some thunder. They had predicted thunder showers here. And it is ominous looking out there. Packed house here at Shea.
Well, they had the old-timers game in Pittsburgh yesterday, Ralph. I'm going to ask you a question. Did you get any hits, or did you embarrass the booth in Pittsburgh?
I had a bullet to the shortstop and was out by 89 feet.
Hit it right out of nose, though. Huh?
First time in 50 years I've ever been jammed. And this ball grounded to third, a play for Johnson. And he guns it to first base for the out. So the Cardinals get 1 after loading the bases with no one out. And they leave 1. And the score at the end of 2.5 innings, the Cardinals 1, the Mets nothing. Now let's go to Lee Zeidman in our studio.
Studios, hope you're enjoying tonight's Mets curtain call. Big news in town today. Knicks have a new coach. Rick Pitino leaves his position at Providence in hopes he can return the Knicks to glory. And while the majority view the Knicks as a team governed by chaos, Pitino thinks the club is first rate.
Well, I think the organization has been put together very well, top to bottom. It's been explained to me from my early interviews that it's not just hiring a head coach. It's hiring and putting together an organization so the head coach can stay intact for more than a few years, has been the case. And they've done that right now. I'm ecstatic to work on Al Bianchi and under Dick McGuire. Obviously, working with those two people is going to be a great thrill. There's more expertise with those two guys probably than any two people in this league.
We'll have the complete story on Rick Pitino after tonight's game on New York Sports Nightly. Now let's go back to our Mets curtain call.
Greg Matthews, the starting pitcher for the Cardinals, leading by a score of 1-0 after 2.5 innings, both sides with 2 hits. Gooden got out of a bases-loaded jam with no one out when the Mets turned a double play with a run scoring, and then he picked up Ozzie Smith for the final out in the top of the 3rd. So for the Mets, the leadoff batter will be Dwight Gooden, followed by Mookie Wilson and Wally Backman. Whitey Herzog, the manager of the Cardinals, voted by, was it the players, Fran?
The players.
As the #1 manager in baseball.
Oh, Whitey's a good baseball man. He's had some success as a manager with the Kansas City Royals and also with the Cardinals. He didn't fare that well with the Texas Rangers. In fact, speaking of being voted the best by the players, when Whitey Herzog was with the Texas Rangers, the owner was a guy named Bob Short, as you look at John Morris in right field. And Matthews first pitch to Gooden, and it's a ground ball to Short. And Smith gets Gooden at first, 1 down. Whitey was on the golf course with Bob Short. The Tigers fired Billy Martin while they were on the golf course, and Bob Short got word that Billy Martin had just been fired. He turns to Whitey Herzog and says, "They just fired the best manager in baseball." Whitey said, "I knew then my job was in jeopardy." Whitey Herzog.
So Whitey Herzog, one-time third base coach for the Mets. He also ran the farm system, an outstanding baseball man. Leading the Cardinals here, they're in first place by 7 1/2 games over the Mets in Montreal. And now the batter will be Mookie Wilson, and Mookie takes for ball 1.
Whitey said when he was told by Bob Short, who was his boss, that Billy Martin was the best manager in baseball, he knew his days were numbered with Texas. And shortly thereafter, Billy Martin took over as manager.
And the off-speed pitch for a swinging strike in the count. 1 ball and 1 strike to Mookie Wilson. Mookie fouled out on the first pitch of the ball game by Matthews. Greg Matthews on the mound for the Cardinals. Came in with a record of 5-5. 1-1 against the Mets this year.
By the way, Ralph, Whitey Herzog getting that vote of confidence from the players beat out Gene Mauch.
1-1, and this pitch hit foul right by Sam Palazzo, and it's 1-2. Incidentally, John Morris taking over in left field for Vince Coleman. Coleman out with a jammed thumb. So the Mets will not have to contend with the base stealing of Vince Coleman. And the off-speed pitch again, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Speaking of Gene Mauch, Mauch has never won enough games to play in a World Series in his many years as manager. And the fastball fouled this time to the first base side, but out of play.
I think Gene Mauch carries himself in a manner that when you look at him, you figure this guy really knows what he's doing. He hasn't won yet. Whitey Herzog's won. Davey Johnson's won. Sparky Anderson's won. But Gene Mauch has not won. And Gene's had some pretty good talent.
Foul ball, foul back. I think it's best put by Warren Spahn, who said when he played for Casey Stengel, when he managed Boston, the Boston Braves, and they had a terrible team up there, and Warren Spahn pitched for it. And then, of course, he pitched for him with the Mets when the Mets were the worst team in baseball. He said, "I played before and after Casey Stengel was a genius."
Exactly right. You have to have the players. No doubt about it.
3-2 the count. Fastball line to left field, a base hit. Ball fielded by John Morris, and Mookie Wilson is on.
And keep in mind, last night, Mookie stole number 250 for his career in the 11th inning. And here he really, the ball got in him a little bit. He was able to come in with his hands and still get the head of the bat on the ball and pull it.
That's what you have to do to hit that inside pitch.
And they call it really an in-and-out swing that Mookie just took right there.
So Mookie on at first base with one away. The Mets trailing 1-0, and the batter's Wally Backman. Wally worked out a walk in the 3-2 pitch his first time up. And Backman swings right through a fastball, strike one. Coleman, as we mentioned, out of the ball game with that jammed thumb. He did it diving back into first base on a pickoff attempt.
So it was a good idea for Dwight Gooden to throw to first base. And many times he did it. And Coleman eventually hurt his thumb diving back in. That dive, I'll tell you, that's a dangerous thing.
Up on the fingers as you look at Mookie Wilson.
And sliding head first is also a dangerous slide.
And a throw to first.
The guy that popularized the head first slide played for the Gas House Gang, a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, Pepper Martin.
Third baseman for the Cardinals in their heyday of 1934. Again, a throw to first, Mookie back easily.
I think more guys do the head first slide into the bases than ever before. And you know, if you want to be selfish, when you hit a ball, don't slide and run all the way in.
Backman, an idea about bunting his way on, takes 1 ball, 1 strike.
And the reason, for example, if you hit a double, you hit a ball, you go around first base, head for second. If you slide, you overslide the bag, they tag you, you're out, you're credited with a single. If you overrun the base and you're tagged out, you get a double.
You get that all figured out. When you make your comeback, you know what to do.
You got to scratch and claw for every hit.
1-1 the count, and Backman takes a breaking ball. 2 balls, 1 strike.
And you can't be selfish in this game, can you, Ralph?
Well, it's a team game played by individual players.
That's right. I mean, you can be rah-rah type of guy, but if you're 0 for 30 and the team's losing, you're going to be on the pine. Or you might not even be at the club.
You might be in the minors. Toss over to first.
They can say, geez, he's a team player, but that doesn't help out as you're packing your bags. You really have to produce, and if you produce, you're going to help the club.
2-1 the count to Wally Backman. Again, a throw to first base. Mookie has 12 stolen bases this year in 14 attempts. And Mookie, a late start, but the ball popped up in the shallow right. Mookie picks it up. Coming over from right field is Kurt Ford, and he makes the catch. It's not Kurt Ford out there.
That's John Morris.
John Morris.
That's all right. Kurt Ford's out there someplace. He's in left field. Kurt moved from right to left. Johnny Morris, who's from Long Island, now out right field.
Hernandez.
So 2 men out. Keith Hernandez a batter. Keith was struck out his first time up. Matthews got him with a breaking ball. Nothing Cardinals, a runner at first. And a ground ball to the shortstop, Ozzie Smith, who has it. The flip to second for the force play that retires the side. So in the inning, a base hit and 1 left, and the score at the end of 3 as Tim McCarver joins Fran Healy. The Cardinals 1, the New York Mets nothing.
Tradition of guys sliding into the booth that was involved in many a championship season with the Cardinals. And his battery mate just a couple doors down, Tim McCarver.
Yep. Bob Gibson, of course, y'all showed him a little bit earlier. That is not Bob, right there.
A couple of guys, they'll be down on Wall Street tomorrow, working on some portfolios.
Davy Johnson loves to tell a story that Bob Gibson told Davy about me. It is a self-deprecating story, I might add.
But go right ahead.
Gibby said that he never used to shake me off unless I called for a pitch out. And the reason he didn't want to throw a pitch out is that I could throw him out anyway. Davy Johnson loves to repeat that story that Bob has told him about me, and of course I love to hear it.
Well, here's a guy that's involved in a tradition in St. Louis, Tommy Herr. Boy, they've had a Great history in St. Louis.
Yeah, they really have. Great baseball town. Got an outside chance to, well, they had an outside chance this evening to draw $3 million.
How about those Rolaids? Davey doing a commercial for Rolaids. He's got them right with him.
I'll tell you, I think every manager should be stocked with something along those lines. Digestive aids.
Oh, boy, it's got to be tough to sleep, especially after a ball game like last night.
For the St. Louis Cardinals.
I said to Jay Oro, I said, boy, it's got to be tough, you know, the manager tossing and turning. Jay said, I tossed and turned all last night, too. And Jay's as involved as anybody, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He takes the game home. And you can't help but live the game. I mean, everybody says you got to leave the game at the ballpark. That's a bunch of baloney. You take it home with you, I'll guarantee you. But you have about 2 hours a night to get over a loss and 2 hours to celebrate a victory, because the game's a humbling experience.
Tommy Herr was just humbled by Dwight Gooden. He broke his back. 1 down. Now, ordinarily, when a guy gets jammed, he goes in the dugout. Well, they might kid him, but boy, those bus rides can be brutal, can't they? Players remembering all the jam shots.
Start ripping ability. That's when the fights break out there. A lot of, boy, that thing really broken on the handle. Little saw-off job right there. Yeah, those bus rides can be vicious.
The batter now, Jack Clark, who can hammer, takes a strike 0-1, leads the National League with 11 game-winning hits.
He's led the National League in game-winning hits back in 80 and 82 also. He had 18 in 1980 and 21 in 1982.
Those wristbands have become forearm bands.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, he's got that. Down low, 2-1. 1 man down here at the top of the 4th. 1-0 Cardinals on top of the Mets. 2 hits for the Cards, 3 for the Mets. Big crowd on hand. We had a downpour, and they're back. Everybody is back in their seat. A postscript to the downpour. We did get a phone call from Rusty Staub. He said the rain has left Manhattan. Three and one. I'm really.
Lloyd Lindsay Staub.
Yeah, Rusty called for the restaurant. He's a meteorologist.
He can do it all.
Oh, he is a character. Down low, ball 4. So Dwight Gooden loses Jack Clark. And with 1 man down,
Stepping
the batter will be
center fielder Willie McGee.
Starting to rain a little bit, as you can tell. Willie McGee and Don Mattingly played Double-A baseball together in the same year they both won the MVP awards, and one in the American League, one in the National League.
They played together back in 1982 when the trade was made.
Nashville.
Right around June 15th at Nashville, and Bob Sykes, the left-handed pitcher, coming to the Yankees for Willie McGee. Certainly one of the key trades in this decade. Doug Harvey at third base, the umpire-in-chief. It's with capital letters.
Well, that's the truth. And Willie McGee fouls the ball off 0-2. 34 RBIs in his last 36 games. Willie McGee. One man down.
Looked like the state of Minnesota, didn't it?
Speaking of Minnesota, they're playing good baseball.
I'll say.
Jeff Reardon really doing the job there.
Rusty start over there with the Twins. No score. The Twins playing in Kansas City right now. That game in the 2nd inning.
Strike 3, good pitch. So Willie McGee goes down.
It's apparent that Willie was looking for the ball inside, and Gooden threw it outside, and Willie just waves at it.
So 2 men out, and the batter Terry Pendleton.
Funny how some guys show anger. You saw McGee sitting back on the bench. obviously miffed. Other guys throw the helmets. Some guys act impassive when they strike out.
Some guys
all obviously care. It's just a different way in showing you're being upset.
Most guys, when they start throwing stuff, can be downright dangerous in that dugout.
They can.
I remember Harmon Killebrew talking to George Brett when George was a young player in the American League about not throwing things. Ball fouled out of play, 0-2. Lou Piniella used to do it, but it was almost like the players were entertained by it. One day, Lou Piniella got so mad he kicked the water cooler in Kansas City. Joe Foy was sitting on the dugout step. He broke the water cooler. The water shot out with such force, hit Joe Foy. He rolled out onto the field, and Lou's trying to hold the water in the water cooler with his hand. And Gooden checks Clark. 0-2 count.
Well, there's a story also about the Yankee manager, Lou Piniella, where he was upset about being jammed at Fenway Park. He went out to the scoreboard, of course, the manual scoreboard. He kicked the scoreboard and got his foot caught and where they slide the numbers in. Had to have the trainer come out to remove his shoe, and then he took it. Very embarrassing trying to...
Oh, he is a real character. Of course, he's really calmed down. He fits the role as a manager now. But there are some. He's the oldest rookie of the year in the history of baseball. Back in 1969, he was the rookie of the year with the Kansas City Royals. Jack Clark leading off first base. Pendleton fouling a ball out of play. 1-2. Talking about rookie of the year. If Lou ever wins the manager of the year, he'd be the second man in the history of baseball to win rookie of the year and then go on and win manager of the year. And the other guy managed here for 2 years. He managed the Yankee Ball Club. Bill Vert managed at Shea Stadium. 1-2 on Pendleton. Fouled into the crowd and out of play.
The inception, I think it's interesting to be reminded that the inception of the Rookie of the Year award, and there was a Rookie of the Year back in 1984, the inception back in 1947, and the first Rookie of the Year was Jackie Robinson. The first Most Valuable Player award was back in 1931. Frankie Frisch, the first MVP.
Well, there was an award symbolic of the MVP. Yeah. And it's a great
before
story.
Before 1931.
Chalmers Motor Company used to give it out early in 1900, and it was controversial the first year. Ty Cobb was leading the league. They were going to give it to the leading batter in the league, and they didn't want to give it to him, but he won the batting crown. The Chalmers Award.
It even sounds bad.
I know, it really does. That car went out of business. Down low. 2-2. In fact, to mention there's 104 MVP awards given out.
Very close pitch, but it appeared to be low to Pendleton. Whenever a catcher turns his mitt, talk about the pie pan effect, as you look at Jerry Davis, whenever a catcher turns his mitt over, usually the ball is low.
Oh, not that one, however. Great curveball from Dwight Gooden to Terry Pendleton. And he goes down. That'll do it for the Cards here in the top of the fourth. They leave a runner stranded. Jack Clark. There's the score, and we'll be back. A year to remember. Mets against the Cincinnati Reds. That's Thursday night, July 16th at 7:35 p.m. It's a year to remember, as all fans will receive a specially designed, suitable for framing, commemorative print featuring memorable moments of the Mets' 1986 championship season, courtesy of Budweiser. Tickets are available at all Ticketron outlets, Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window, or by calling 718-507-TIXX during regular business hours for all ticket information.
Well, the finale of this three-game series, the Mets and the Cardinals, wraps up tomorrow night. Wraps up with the finale. Game time 7:35, first day in July. And the pitchers will be Joe McGrain, the left-hander for the Cardinals, against Sid Fernandez. So a good matchup. Following the All-Star break, the Mets return home to take on the Cincinnati Reds. Thursday and Friday, July 16th and 17th at 7:35. Saturday, July 18th at 7:05. And Sunday, a big treat day, the 19th of July, as all fans 14 and under will receive a pair of Mets wristbands courtesy of Starter. And then the Atlanta Braves move into Shea Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 2 7:35 games. And then on July 32nd, I'll be all right. July 22nd, 1:35 in the afternoon. And Tuesday night, July 21st, all fans will receive a pair of Mets tube socks, really handy on nice hot days like tonight. But they will be handy this fall, I guarantee you, to go skiing and things like that. Tickets are available at all Ticketron outlets, Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window, or you can call 718-507-TIXX.
How about those cookies? Fred Wilpon just sent some cookies over as Gary Carter steps in and takes a curveball for a strike. Those are excellent cookies. Why?
I'll say.
You're putting them so far away.
Trying to get them away from me.
I get despondent when I see him going that far away. 0-1 on Gary Carter. Puts the ball off the end of the bat. Fly ball, center field. McGee makes the catch. 1 down.
Now batting.
Well, Greg Matthews once again has stymied the New York Mets, even though he's 2-2, and this being his 5th start against New York. He had his first complete game shutout his last start, and his best pitch is a circle change, and we'll be talking about that during this inning.
Kevin McReynolds, the batter. He hit a hanging curveball into left field, hit a bullet. Just took a strike 0-1. Tony Pena given that low target. There's a ground ball is short. That's an out, as usual. 2 down.
You're at home, and if you put your index finger to your thumb and shape it about the size of a $50 or so and insert a baseball in it and try to throw the pitch just like you throw the fastball, that is what Greg Matthews does when he throws his circle change. It was a change designed by the Kansas City Royal pitching staff, and Greg was saying a lot of left-handed pitchers throw that particular pitch. Charlie Liebrandt of the Kansas City Royals, a guy that comes to mind. A circle change. It's thrown with the last 3 fingers on the left hand, of course.
1-0 on Lee Mazzilli. Swung on a missed 1-1. Mazzilli, a late insertion into the Mets lineup. Darryl Strawberry, a little bit under the weather tonight, but he is at the ballpark and available for pinch hitting duties. Mazzilli grounded into a force play back in the 2nd inning. It's a high fly ball, left center field. Ford is there, makes the catch for out number 3. So Matthews continues to dominate Mets hitters, and through 4, Mets have failed to score. There's the score, 1-0 Cards. Well, top of the 5th inning here at Shea, 1-0 Cardinals on top of the Mets.
Leading off.
Just joined us. We have some heat in the ballpark. We have Dwight Gooden on the mound. We have Bob Gibson doing the Cardinal telecast. And we have Sandy Koufax sitting next door with his friend, Fred Wilpon.
Some guys who throws peas, and the Cards so far this year have been some pea shellers. You ever shell peas?
No.
You haven't? You know what pea shelling is, don't you?
Go through it. Refresh my memory.
Well, you know, with the green beans. Did your mom ever sit on the side, shell peas?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it every day.
Well, I didn't mean you did it, but you've seen the process.
Occasionally I got involved.
That's what Kurt Flood used to say. He said, this guy's a flamethrower, but we got some flame extinguishers.
1-1.
Not too many guys have extinguished Dwight Gooden, as he has distinguished himself throughout his career as a pitcher. 62-20 in his major league career, which means that he's won more than 3 out of 4 games.
Foul out of play. Boy, the first time up, Kurt Ford showed a real quick bat. He hit a bullet in the right field off a good fastball. Flame extinguisher.
Put out the fire. Kurt, another one of the prototypical Cardinal outfielders, guys who can really run. He can hit a ball a long way, too. He's a little guy, only weighs 155 pounds. He can take you deep. Had his first 2 home run game on Sunday.
When you think of a little guy who hit with power, who do you immediately think of?
Joe Morgan.
Oh, yeah. You know, I didn't think of Joe. I thought of Jimmy Wendt.
Yeah, the toy cannon. Mel Ott, I understand, was small in stature. However, he had big hips and big legs. A lot of power comes both as a pitcher and as a hitter from your legs.
Oh, 3-2.
Well, I'll tell you, Kurt, this is going to get everybody right here. Every hitter that ever lived. The best you can do with that is foul it off. That ball, that's just unfair right there. A 3-2 Yellowhammer. Nothing to do but go take your seat. That's what Kurt's doing.
Can't even give him a hang with him.
Kurt's saying, holy cow, how can a man do that?
5 strikeouts, and Tony Pena just took a rip, strike 1. Pena 0 for 1 in this ball game. He's going back. He's had enough.
Oh, this is a great matchup, and you've seen it on SportsChannel through the years. Dwight Gooden and Tony Pena. Almost like you hear us, huh, Tony? Oh, it's wonderful.
0-1 on Pena. 0-2.
Oh, what a delightful young man. I mean, a guy who really can have fun at his position. You know, catchers are not the... You got Gary Carter and Tony Pena, 2 of the happiest catchers I think I've ever seen.
Usually catchers are surly during a game.
For good reason.
That's right. 1-2. My first game in pro ball, I was standing near the batter's box, and the catcher told me, get away from here, we'll hit you in the head. 1-2. Popped up. Wally Beck makes the catch. 2 outs.
St. Louis pitcher.
Tell you, nothing quicker can wipe the smile off a hitter's face than a knockdown pitch, and that 0-2 pitch was close to Tony. And Tony got up, and he was not smiling. But he is a delightful young man. Quite a talent, too.
Uh-oh. Greg Matthews. Fouled off. 0-1. Matthews 2-2 against the Mets lifetime. As Ralph mentioned before, he spent some time in the minor leagues this year. And another fine pitcher on this ball club, Joe McGrain. Talk about bouncing back after last season. The Cardinals have really done it. 2 men down here in the top of the 5th. Mets playing one of the biggest games of the year for him tonight. 1-1 on Matthews.
Everybody asks Whitey Herzog as you look at Davey Johnson, how are you going to make up 27 games on the Mets? Very interesting comment as the curveball misses. He said that 2 things in baseball that he doesn't believe in, last year or yesterday.
That's right.
He made that comment in spring training.
Top of the 3rd, Howard Johnson to first, and that'll do it for the Cards. 3 up, 3 down here in the top of the 5th. They fail to score, and after 4.5, they lead the Mets 1-0.
Franny, we were talking about that circle change that Greg Matthews throws. Now, this is the way a lot of people hold teacups when they drink tea, right? But not so Greg Matthews. The circle change, actually the index finger and the thumb touch. And Greg Matthews, with these 3 fingers, sometimes a hitter can pick those 3 fingers up. but he throws it with the same motion as he does the fastball. It's very, very important to throw it with the same arm motion. A lot of young pitchers think they have to speed up the body, but actually what you have to do is throw it with the same arm motion, and that's what Greg Matthews tries to do. The circle change, and it's his best pitch.
And he's doing well right now. He has a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the 5th inning. Cardinals and the Mets in a very, very big game in the middle of the baseball season. I'd like to see you throw that ball towards the camera. Give our viewers a real thrill.
You know, it's funny. Of course, I'm right-handed, but I could barely hold the ball. Look at this play.
Oh, what a play by Pendleton. You got to just stand up and applaud that effort. Talk about quick, relaxed hands.
Shortstop.
I think Terry Pendleton is the best fielding third baseman in the National League. He stuns this crowd with this play. A one-hopper. Watch how he puts his right hand on the ground once he makes the play to spin around. What a play! My goodness. Oh, boy.
That was a rally killer right there.
Oh, brother.
With nobody on base, that was a rally killer of a play. And Santana's the batter, 0-1. Wasn't able to check his swing, 0-2.
Man, that was a sure double for Howard Johnson. What a play by Terry Pendleton. Man.
Good to see that play in a pennant chase this week.
Here it is, worth looking at one more time. He snow cones it in the web, and now uses his right hand to regain balance. And he's got Johnson by 5 steps. Boy, a terrific play by Terry Pendleton. My friend, you ought to be proud.
1 down. Up high. 1-2. We had a downpour here for a while tonight, but everybody came back to their seats. Popped up. Shallow center field. Long run from McGee. He's got it. 2 outs. I always felt Willie McGee reminded me of Mickey Rivers and Whitey Herzog when he was coaching with the Angels. Mickey was a center fielder. Loved him. When he managed Kansas City, he tried all the time to trade for him. And Willie McGee's a better player, but he reminds me a lot of Mickey. Mickey threw a lot of talent out the window. He could play. Batter now, Dwight Gooden. Gooden 0 for 1 in this ball game. And he hits on top of the ball. Ozzie Smith to first, and that'll do it for the Mets here in the 5th. They fail to score. 3 up, 3 down. At the end of 5. There's the score, and we'll be back. We're back here at Shea Stadium, top of the 6th inning, 1-0. The Cardinals on top of the Mets. John Morris, the batter. Morris entered the ball game when Vince Coleman left the ball game. Morris took over in right field. Kurt Ford moved to left field. Coleman hurt his thumb diving back into first base in the 1st inning. Dwight Gooden checking him a number of times. There's a curveball down low, 2-0.
And Morris with a key hit in last night's game. As a pinch hitter in the 5th inning, he drove in 2 runs with the bases loaded.
Take a strike, 2-1. That's quite a list you have of Chris Berman.
Oh, I did wonderful.
Baseball
I got it today. Berman's baseball nicknames furnished by ESPN.
2-1. There's a shot, 1 hopper to Santana. Score at 6-3, 1 down.
Well, let's take a look at the National League scoreboard. 5-1. The Expos trying to rebound from after the drubbing by Chicago last night. 4-2. Cincinnati over Houston. That game could determine who's ahead in the National League West. Philadelphia trying to win their 4th game in a row. Up 3-0 against the Pirates. Atlanta at San Francisco. San Diego at Los Angeles a little bit later on.
And a batter, Ozzie Smith, takes a ball outside. Ozzie 0 for 2 in this ball game. Down low and away. 2-0. quieted down here at Shea since Pendleton made that play against Howard Johnson. 2-1.
That'll quiet a home crowd in a hurry.
Yeah. Look at the defense. Right back up the middle. Base hit. So Ozzie Smith is on first base. His first hit of the ball game. He's now 1 for 3, and the Cardinals have 3 hits.
Coming around to the plate.
Well, Gooden actually had a chance at this ball. It goes off his webbing, and it goes on into center field. Hit number 3 for the Cardinals, and they still had the 1-0 lead. The Mets also with 3 hits. A game about as expected with Gooden and Matthews containing both offenses for the most part.
So Tommy Herd the batter. 1 out. A quiet crowd here at Shea. The Mets trailing 1-0. Stay with us because anything can happen here at Shea Stadium. Cardinals playing excellent defense so far. Although last night was a little bit shaky for everybody. We had the good, the bad, and the ugly. Down low. 1-0. Kind of enjoy a chaotic game like that.
Well, that was a distressing game for the Mets because the Cardinals played about as bad as they can play, and they still won the ball game.
Yeah.
That's what's distressing about last night's loss. But as we said earlier, you got about 2 hours to get over it. A new day follows, and the Mets hoping the result in this game will be different.
Two and 0.
Tommy Herr lifetime 6 for 45 against Gooden with no home runs and 3 RBIs. But he's in a good hitting situation here.
2 ball, no strike count. Ozzie Smith on first base looking for signs. 1 man down. We're in the top of the 6th inning. Foul off.
Oh boy, you hate that check swing on a 2-0-3-1 count.
Yeah.
Tommy Herr is showing his dismay.
Ralph and I were talking about that before. Tommy Hearn not happy with that. How about fouling out to the third baseman or the first baseman, and they just reach in the stands and make the catch.
Yeah, if you do it with 2 strikes, it's not nearly as frustrating as when you're ahead of the pitcher, because technically you got a free hack.
2-0, 3-1, and you try to take a big rip, and all of a sudden you see a ball going out of the strike zone. You try to check your swing, and the ball dribbles back to the pitcher. They check Smith at first.
Gooden certainly has improved his move, and Ozzie Smith a little laxed in going back. He was almost out. But a threat to run with this count, 2-1 to Herr, an ideal hit and run situation.
And 1 man down, 1-0. Cards on top of the Mets. There he goes. The pitch, shot right in the hole. Base hit. Smith cruises into third base. Tommy Herr really slapping that ball in the vacated area at shortstop.
At the plate.
Rafael Santana covering on the play, because when a guy like Herr is ahead in the count, you got to figure he's more apt to pull the ball. Talking to Keith Hernandez, and obviously happy Smith was put in motion. That's pretty good strategy when you think about it. Whitey Herzog allowing him to hit 2-0 and allowing him to choose a pitch, even though he did have the check swing, and then sending the runner with the count 2-1. And now he's giving signs to Nick Leyva, his third base coach. But if you're thinking about a squeeze with this guy, can it? Forget it. No chance. Pardon me.
Jack Clark, all kinds of power. 0 for 1 in his ball game. He's also walked. Saw Whitey Herzog flashing signs before. I was talking to Whitey in his office before the ball game. He was going over the charts where guys hit the ball off of Gooden. He's a big believer in that as Clark swings over the curveball, strike 1.
And also where guys hit the ball off of Greg Matthews too, and how to play the defense. You don't slip anything by him. Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, has the counter in his hand, and I guess it might be a stopwatch on the runners.
Right, timing Gooden going to the plate.
Yeah.
Jammed, drives it a long way. He gets the sacrifice fly, but I mean, Clark, he surprised me at the ball that far, unless I misread the hit. So sacrifice fly to Jack Clark, for Jack Clark, and Ozzie Smith scores, and the Cards lead 2-0 here in the 6th inning.
Well, the one thing about Jack Clark, his hands are so thick, he has tremendous power.
He didn't get
well, that's normally a pretty good pitch, though. The ball was up, it wasn't way in, but it was pretty much in.
I think he generates so much bat speed
really
with
does.
those hands. They're always in motion. 2 men down, and the batter now, Willie McGee, and he's safe. First base umpire Dick Stello, and quite good. Boy, you don't see him get upset very often.
Herr certainly was going. Gooden, a quick move. Tell you, it looked like he was back in there.
Yeah,
the throw beat him, but the throw was high, and Keith had to give it that quick tag. And I think that's what Keith is questioning, knowing the throw beat him. And he did give as quick a tag as he could. Had the ball been down, obviously Herr would have been out.
2 men out. Herr leading off first. Pitch to McGee's fouled off. One and one. There's the line score. Watching all the action right here on SportsChannel. I'm Fran Healy along with Tim McCarver and Ralph Kiner. Stay with us. You're going to have a lot of highlights on Sports Nightly. Up high to Willie McGee. 2 and 1. We have highlights of the Mets game, highlights of the Yankee games, and other highlights throughout baseball. Have a little profile on Jack Clark. A discussion with Mike Tyson. And they check her at first base. Two and one on her. On McGee. First to at first. He has no count. Looper left center, and it drops. Base hit. So the Cardinals now with runners on first and second as McGee gets his first hit of the ball game.
Cardinals third baseman Terry Pendleton.
Curveball on the 2-1 pitch, and a good one, and McGee just loops it into left center field. Nice play by Wilson to hold her at second base. Cardinals really, even though it's a 2-0 game, they're in total control of this ball game right now. That could change.
They're in control of the atmosphere of this ball game.
Yep.
The atmosphere in this ballpark. Breaking ball misses to Pendleton, ball 1.
They control a lot of parks on the road. They have the best road record in the major leagues, 25-11 in the big leagues. Pena talking things over with Whitey Herzog.
Fouled off. 1 and 1. One ball, 1 strike count on the Cardinal third baseman who made the play of the year at third base. Back in the bottom of the 5th inning.
You know what's going to be interesting and a real challenge to Bill Webb? Trying to get Davy Johnson going to the water cooler. I don't think I've ever seen Davy get a drink of water during a game.
That's right. Well, how do you put the roll? Well, I guess you with the Rolaids, you don't need the water.
Chew them and down them. Everybody goes to the water fountain, but Davy Johnson.
He sits next to it.
Yeah. All other managers, even when they're not thirsty, they go and get water. That's going to be Bill Webb's most recent challenge.
Catching Davy drinking water. 2-1 pitch. 2-2. Wow. Ball girl did the best thing possible. She ducked. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Top of the 6th. Cardinals with the runner on second. Tommy Herr, the runner on first. Willie McGee, the batter, Terry Pendleton. Mets trailing the Cards by 7.5 games. Fouled off. Obviously, if they win, the Mets go to 6.5. If they lose, they go to 8.5.
It's the largest lead, even though the Cardinals won the pennant in the World Series in '82. They won the pennant in '85, but the 7.5 game lead is the largest lead the Cardinals have had during any season since 1968, when they were 9 games up at this point.
Popped up. Playable. Santana makes the catch for out number 3. So the Cards pick up another run. They strand 2 at the end of 5.5. It's 2-0 St. Louis.
Baseball bloopers of the week. Brought to you by Metropolitan Life. Get better.
Thank you. Well, SportsChannel is looking for the 10 best sports bars in the New York metro area. I want to let Tim McCarver get on headset for this one. Tim, I want you on headset for this promo.
All right.
All right?
All right.
SportsChannel is looking for the 10 best sports bars in the New York metro area.
Can't help you.
Places where fans flock to watch their favorite New York teams. If you think your hangout is one of the 10 best, in the name of the bar, Sports Channel's Best Sports Bar Contest. P.O. Box 234, Woodbury, New York, 11797. Now, Sports Channel will be profiling the top 10 bars all summer long, and in the fall, name the top sports bar. Now, you know Rusty's. Is Rusty's a sports bar?
Yeah, well, most certainly.
Well, you know, Rusty's Restaurant has this game on.
I'll guarantee you, Rusty's certainly among them. And you've got to include Runyon's down at, what, 50th and 2nd?
I'll tell you.
Proprietor Joe Healy.
Maud's Restaurant on Lexington Avenue. Fly ball, center field. McGee, a shoestring catch. 1 down.
Nice play by McGee. He had a long way to run. If you remember in last night's game, Gary Carter dropped one in front of Willie. But Willie, a good jump right here to make the play. Greg Matthews has really done the job on the Mets so far tonight.
He's pitched brilliantly tonight against the Mets. Wally Backman, the batter. Up high, ball 1.
Didn't see Sandy last night, but Sandy Koufax came in to the booth between innings. Man, does he look good.
He looks great.
They say at some of those fantasy camps he shows up and he blows people away. He's still throwing 90 miles an hour.
Well, he does. He looks like he's in tremendous shape.
He's always taken care of himself. What a tremendous left-hander he was. I mean to tell you, he was something. Such respect went out for that man.
2-1. He pitched with class. I mean, he would defend his hitters, but he wouldn't go head hunting.
No.
2-1 on Wally Backman, to be followed by Keith Hernandez. We got two of the best pitchers ever pitched in baseball sitting up here in the press level. Sandy Koufax next door with Fred Woodbarn, and sitting to their right, Bob Gibson. I mean, you wouldn't need a relief pitcher.
You got that right. We are told, by the way, up in Montreal that the Chicago Cubs and Montreal Expos had a bench-clearing brawl.
Outside, 3-2.
Andres Galarraga, the fine first baseman of the Expos, and Dickie Knowles, the pitcher for the Cubs, were both ejected. We assume there was a knockdown battle.
Ground ball short. Score at 6-3, 2 down.
Well, that's 10 in a row retired by Matthews, and the Mets bats are very, very quiet. Speaking of great pitchers.
Hernandez.
Greg Matthews with his shutout against the Phillies last Thursday night. And now the 5 2/3 against the Mets has worked 14 2/3 innings of shutout ball.
2 men out. Hernandez the batter. Fakes outside, ball 1. Mets playing catch-up baseball. If they catch up in this ball game, this place will explode. Looks like another sellout crowd here at Shea Stadium. Down low to Hernandez. 2-0. They continue to pack them in here at Shea. Great place to watch a ball game. Pulled foul.
49,416 paid, 51,041 in the house. The house that Hodges built.
That's right. Late Gil Hodges. His numbers retired here at Shea Stadium. Casey Stengel, 2 numbers retired. Both of them managers, but I got a feeling they're going to have a pitcher retired. They're going to retire a pitcher's number shortly. There's Gil Hodges' number, 14 out there in right field, and 37 is over in left field.
It's already been announced that the inverted 14 will be retired. Tom Seaver, number 41.
And it's taken a strike, 3-2. He wore that number well. 41. 3-2 on Hernandez. If he gets on, Carter will follow. Chopper to first. Clark takes it himself. Matthews continues to hold the Mets in check. 3 up, 3 down here in the 6th, and at the end of 6th, as Ralph Kiner joins Tim McCarver, the Cardinals are shutting out the Mets.
1-2 to Ford.
You know, that sounds like an awful lot, but back in 1942, the Dodgers on August 15th led the Cardinals by 9.5 games, and the Cardinals ended up winning 106 games and winning the National League Championship. In 1946, the Dodgers led the Cardinals by 7.5 games July 15th, and they lost to the Cards in a playoff. In 1951, on August 11th, the Dodgers were leading the Giants by 13. And, of course, that was the famous Bobby Thompson playoff home run that gave the Giants a victory.
Lined into center, base hit for Ford, his second hit. So Ford's on there. He's now 2 for 3 in the batter, Tony Pena.
Catcher, Tony.
Oh, there are any number of pennant races that have been won. Teams coming from a long way back. The Cardinals in '64 were behind 11.5 games August 23rd.
And 6.5 games on September 20th.
With 12 games to play.
Phillies lost 10 straight. Of course, in 1969, the Mets were way behind.
So it can be done, but nonetheless, you'd rather be ahead, obviously. Fastball inside.
On August 13th, 1969, the Cubs were leading the Cardinals by 8 and the Mets by 9.5. And the Mets finished 38-11. And the Cubs lost 19, had won only 19, lost 27. And the Mets won it by a large margin that year in '69. So big leads aren't necessarily a shoe-in.
However, the Cardinals right now are just simply playing much better baseball than the Mets. Obviously not trying to rationalize the lead the Cardinals had. They are steaming in the National League East. They are an excellent ball club, and they can beat you in a lot of ways. Ground ball left side. Santana wanted to throw, prudently held up, a base hit for Pena.
And there is one reason why the Cardinals are such a good ball club. They can get broken bat base hits. They can run. And here in this inning, 2 blue pits, and they got runners at first and second with no one out. This is a broken bat hit right here. Hit it right off the fist. And it gets by Johnson, and Santana no chance for a play.
Even though in all fairness, the way the Mets took the lead last night with 4 runs in the 5th inning, none of the 4 hits that they got in the 5th inning were hit hard. Also 2 Cardinal errors. So no pictures, just numbers. Matthews to bunt. Fastball inside.
Back in the 3rd inning, Matthews up the bunt with runners at first and second. And he was walked on 4 pitches. That set up the first run for St. Louis as that first run scored on a double play.
Hernandez way in. The Mets do not use the rotation play. Santana at second base. And the throw to second. Ford's going to try for third. Got him. Pena to second. Out at second base is a most unusual double play. 2 outs. That'll kill a rally.
Let's look at this again. Ford picked off at second base, tries to go to third. The throw beats him. The tag is made, and now Pena tries to go to second. Here's a throw by Carter, and Santana gets it over to third in time. Good tag play here for the out. And now Johnson sees Pena going down to second, and he is out. So it is a 1, 2, 6, 5, 6 double play.
Sounds like an area code or a zip code. An old zip code. Now they're hyphenated. 2 and 2 to Matthews. Rarely when a team is trailing and the trailing team makes a good defensive play does it pick a team up. It could be the play that picks the Mets up. It certainly picked up the crowd here.
The crowd came to life.
They liked that, didn't they?
Crowd. They certainly did. Big play in this ball game.
Cardinals with bad defense last night, and they won tonight with bad base running, and they're winning. It's 2 and 2 to Greg Matthews. 2-0 Cardinals. Top of the 7th. See you later. Strikeout number 6 for good. No runs, 2 hits, no errors, and none left. Figure that one out. Tim McCarver along with Ralph Kiner, Fran Healy right here on SportsChannel. Very strange top of the 7th inning. Here's what happened.
And Carter alertly sees that Ford is off at second. He fires it down to Santana, who moves up to take the throw, gets it over to Johnson for the out of third. And now Pena coming down from first, and he is out as Santana starts and ends the double play.
So the Mets will try to take advantage. They're still obviously very much in this game. Greg Matthews, however, the Cardinal pitcher, has retired 11 in a row. Gary Carter 0 for 2. Curve ball for a strike. In last night's ball game, if you remember, in the bottom of the 11th inning, Ken Daly, who had just plunked Keith Hernandez with runners at first and second, loaded the bases, obviously, and struck out Carter on 3 straight pitches. Foul back, 0-2.
Carter's had a tough time against the Cardinals this year. 3 hits and 27 at-bats. 3 RBIs, no home runs.
0-2 to Gary Carter. Way outside, 1-2.
Davey Johnson trying to get something going here. Mets have been held to 3 hits.
Curveball, foul tip. Pena could not hold on, so we'll do it again. A break for Carter.
Well, Carter, a bad swing at this curveball, just chops at it, gets the top of it, fouls it down. So on a bad swing, he gets the life and has a chance to do something.
Change up, got him. In a row retired by Matthews.
That is the second strikeout for Matthews in this game. His first strikeout victim back in the first was Keith Hernandez, and this is a swing at the changeup way out in front. The circle change.
Boy, it's a good one. Kevin McReynolds the batter, and the curveball is high.
McReynolds singled off a changeup his first time up.
Tell you, Greg Matthews entered the game 5-5, but his last 2 games he certainly has pitched much better than a .500 pitcher. He shut out the Phillies last Thursday and has worked 6 1/3 here of scoreless baseball. 2-0.
3-hit shutout against the Phillies, his first major league shutout. He lost a major league shutout here last year when Lee Mazzilli hit a home run off of him in the 9th inning.
He eventually won that game pitching 10 strong innings. 2-0 to McReynolds. Ball 3. Ralph, Sandy Koufax in the booth between innings to say hello, and I got to tell you a great story about Koufax, and I don't believe I've ever told you. 3-0 to McReynolds. Strike 1. Back in 1966, if you remember that unbelievably hot day during the All-Star game, where Casey Stengel made the great remark that the ballpark held the heat well. Line drive to right. There's John Morris, 2 away, and 13 in a row retired by Matthews. That was my first All-Star game. Only played in 2, played in 1 in 66 and 7. But Sandy was the starting pitcher that day, and it had to be 115. There's no telling what fortunately for both the National and American League All-Stars, there was no artificial surface. I'm one of the first ones at the clubhouse, and Sandy was also one of the first ones in the clubhouse, is Lee Mazzilli, who's 0 for 2, the batter. Curveball for a strike. We are both in the training room, and I saw a trainer empty a full container, a tube of capsulin, straight capsulin, on the back and left arm of Sandy Koufax.
That stuff is so hot.
It wasn't mixed with anything. It wasn't mixed with any cream to cut the heat or anything. A straight tube, used a whole tube on the back and left arm. His back and left arm were beet red, and he went out and pitched 3 innings. Obviously 3 strong innings. Unbelievable.
No wonder he threw so hard.
Now he didn't feel his arm, right?
You're talking about Sandy being such a gentleman, which he certainly was and is. They tell a great story about Lou Brock and Sandy Koufax. Drysdale told me, as a matter of fact, Brock got on and stole second on the first pitch, stole third in the next pitch. The next time he came up, he drilled Brock right in the back. He says, you just can't show up, Sandy.
You can run on him, but don't show him up. Juan Marichal a lot like that, too. And, of course, Gibson was like that.
Yes, he was.
Well, Greg Matthews has not looked like Sandy Koufax tonight, but the resulting numbers have. He's got a 2-0 lead. He's given up only 3 hits to the Mets. Bottom of the 7th inning, 2-2 to Mazzilli. Line to left, base hit.
Now batting, third baseman, Howard.
Well, this is an off-speed pitch, and one change-up too many, and Lee gets on it, drills it to left field, and the Mets now have the time run at the plate here with 2 men out in the bottom half of the 7th inning.
So Howard Johnson, who is 1 for 2 and should be 2 for 2. Terry Pendleton made as remarkable a play as you can make at third base. A one-hopper, speared in the web, a 360 to his right, and he threw out Johnson by 5 steps at first base. Remarkable play. 1-0 to Hojo.
Couldn't see that move in the Russian ballet.
Oh, that is so true. Randy Myers now loosening up. Davey Johnson will obviously hit for good, and should he hit in this inning. Fastball is high, 2-0 to Johnson. No way you give in to Johnson by throwing him a 2-0 fastball here.
Santana, the on-deck batter.
Darryl Strawberry missed tonight's ball game.
But he is available for pinch hit duty.
Had a slight temperature. Line base hit inside the bag. Pendleton couldn't get to this one. Ford quickly to the ball. Man, Ford got to that ball in a hurry. What a bullet that was. Johnson sitting on that changeup all the way, and the Mets with a chance to tie it here in the 7th.
Well, right here you look at this great angle shot from our left field camera, and this is one Pendleton couldn't get to. He made the play just about like that on Johnson earlier in the ball game. A backhand spear of a shot to his right side. He just does miss this one. So now the Mets with a time run at second. The batter, Rafael Santana.
Whitey Herzog made the comment to Fran Healy before the ball game. Whitey told Fran that he wants his starting pitcher tonight to go at least 7 innings. Well, Greg Matthews has gone 6 2/3. Santana 0 for 2. Change up on the corner. Runners at second and third, 2 outs, 2-0 Cardinal lead. 0-1 to Santana. Curveball grounded foul, so Santana in the hole, 0-2.
Mets have Lyons and Allman, right-hand batters, on the bench.
Looper foul down the right field line. Still 0-2 to Santana. John Morris in right field playing very shallow, and that's what you have to do with Santana. So on a base hit to right, there'll be a play at the plate. Ground ball, base hit. 1-run score. It's a tie ball game, 2-2.
Rafael Santana, former St. Louis Cardinal, comes through with a big base hit with a 2-strike count to tie up the ball game. He finds a hole between the third baseman and the shortstop. Mazzilli scores easily. Johnson, who has great speed, scores the tying run, and the Mets are back in the ball game.
And their emotion is back in the ball game, and so's the crowd. Well hit left field. Is it fair?
Foul ball, and Ford made the catch. Gooden gave everybody a scare. Mouths were wide here at Shea, but Kurt Ford went in to the corner to make the catch. But the Mets tied, 2 runs on 3 hits. They strand 1, and after 7, it's 2-2. We got ourselves a dandy here. You don't usually talk about magic numbers at this particular juncture of the season. However, the magic number for the Mets in the 7th inning was 2. The Cardinals had 2 on, and the Mets got 2 out with 3 throws. The Mets had 2 out, then they got 2 on quickly. Santana scored them both, and it's now 2-2.
And the base hit came on a 2-strike pitch.
Yeah, 0-2. So Greg Matthews, who was, as Ralph Kiner would say, too much, threw 6 2/3. Is sitting there saying probably too bad. And here's John Morris, who entered the game when Vince Coleman was injured back in the 3rd inning.
John Morris.
Coleman Morris 0 for 1. Top of the 8th, 2-2 game. Curveball is high. 1-0 to John Morris.
And that base hit by Santana kept Dwight Gooden in the game.
Grounded off his foot. On June 20th against the Phillies, Gooden was kept in a ball game. Similarly, Wilson and Parrish had hit 2 home runs. The Mets came back with a home run to tie it, and they won it in the bottom of the 9th inning. Won that game 3-2. Fly ball out of play. 1-2 to John Morris from Freeport, out on the island. Used to come to Shea Stadium quite often with his dad. Curveball tapped foul. Cardinals with 7 hits, the Mets with 6. St. Louis leading the major leagues in runs scored. They have scored 420 runs. Since the DH, no National League team has ever led the majors in runs scored. And the Cardinals are doing that now. Inside, 2-2. Fouled away. John Morris leading off the top of the 8th inning. The Cardinals with solo runs in the 3rd and 6th. And the Mets dramatically tying it in the bottom of the 7th. With 2 out and nobody on, it all started so innocently. Lee Mazzilli singled the left. Howard Johnson drilled a bullet down the line, and the hero of the moment, Rafael Santana, singled the left to score 2. RBIs number 22 and 23 for Santana. Got him with the breaking ball. Strikeout number 7 for Gooden. On away.
Good pickup by Gary Carter on this curveball in the dirt.
Smith.
Comes up with it right here and then completes the strikeout by tagging the batter.
So Morris is out of there, and the batter Ozzie Smith. Ozzie 1 for 3 with a run scored. With 1 out and nobody on in the 6th, he singled, moved to second on a
make that move to third on a base hit by Tommy Herr, and scored on a sacrifice fly by Jack Clark, who now leads the majors with 72 RBIs. Strike one.
Ozzie with his base hit back in the 6th inning, extending his hitting streak to 7 consecutive games.
One and one to Ozzie Smith. Mookie shallow in center. McReynolds too deep in left. You have to make Ozzie Smith drive a ball over your head, especially to the opposite field. He has 1 home run in his career, never a regular season home run, 1 only. And he bunts this when he got Johnson napping. Base hit for Smith. Johnson was back at third, and Ozzie Smith lays down a bunt perfectly.
Here's second
So
baseman.
he's at first with 1 away.
Ozzie with that home run in a playoff game against the Dodgers now goes the other way. Beautiful bunt, just pushes it out there. Johnson too deep, no chance.
So Smith at first base, 1 away, and the batter Tommy Herr. He had a hit and run base hit his last at bat. He's grounded to second twice. Kevin McReynolds playing Tommy Herr the same depth as Ozzie Smith. Now, one of them's wrong. And we talk about that so much because that is so important. The opposite fielder, the left fielder for a left-handed hitter, and the right fielder for a right-handed hitter. Jeff Ennis up and throwing. Experience will tell you that guys do not have a lot of power, especially left-handed hitters, the other way. Strike one, 0-1. Strawberry under the weather. Of course, everybody's under the weather. You're above the weather, under the weather, right? The weather's all around us, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Incidentally, Herr has never hit one out of the park in this season, batting left-handed. He's got 1 home run, and that was as a right-hand batter. And he has not handled.
1, and after 7, it's 2-2. We got ourselves a dandy here. You don't usually talk about magic numbers at this particular juncture of the season. However, the magic number for the Mets in the 7th inning was 2. The Cardinals had 2 on, and the Mets got 2 out with 3 throws. The Mets had 2 out. Then they got 2 on quickly. Santana scored them both, and it's now 2-2.
And the base hit came on a 2-strike pitch.
Yeah, 0-2. So Greg Matthews, who was, as Ralph Kiner would say, too much, threw 6 2/3. Is sitting there saying probably too bad. And here's John Morris, who entered the game when Vince Coleman was injured back in the 3rd inning.
John Morris.
Coleman Morris 0 for 1. Top of the 8th, 2-2 game. Curveball is high. 1-0 to John Morris.
And that base hit by Santana kept Dwight Gooden in the game.
Grounded off his foot. On June 20th against the Phillies, Gooden was kept in a ball game. Similarly, Wilson and Parrish had hit 2 home runs. The Mets came back with a home run to tie it, and they won it in the bottom of the 9th inning. Won that game 3-2. Fly ball out of play. 1-2 to John Morris from Freeport out on the island. Used to come to Shea Stadium quite often with his dad. Curveball tapped foul. Cardinals with 7 hits, the Mets with 6. St. Louis leading the major leagues in runs scored. They have scored 420 runs. Since the DH, no National League team has ever led the majors in runs scored. And the Cardinals are doing that now. Inside, 2-2. Fouled away. John Morris leading off the top of the 8th inning. The Cardinals with solo runs in the 3rd and 6th. And the Mets dramatically tying it in the bottom of the 7th. With 2 out and nobody on, it all started so innocently. Lee Mazzilli singled the left. Howard Johnson drilled a bullet down the line, and the hero of the moment, Rafael Santana, singled the left to score 2. RBIs number 22 and 23 for Santana. Got him with the breaking ball. Strikeout number 7 for good. One away.
Good pickup by Gary Carter on this curveball in the dirt.
Smith.
Comes up with it right here and then completes the strikeout by tagging the batter.
So Morris is out of there, and the batter Ozzie Smith. Ozzie 1 for 3 with a run scored. With 1 out and nobody on in the 6th, he singled, moved to 2nd on a make that move to 3rd on a base hit by Tommy Herr, and scored on a sacrifice fly by Jack Clark, who now leads the majors with 72 RBIs. Strike 1.
Ozzie with his base hit back in the 6th inning, extending his hitting streak to 7 consecutive games.
One and 1 to Ozzie Smith. Mookie shallow in center. McReynolds 2 deep in left. You have to make Ozzie Smith drive a ball over your head, especially to the opposite field. He has 1 home run in his career, never a regular season home run, 1 only. And he bunts this one. He got Johnson napping. Base hit for Smith. Johnson was back at 3rd, and Ozzie Smith lays down a bunt perfectly.
Here's second
So
baseman.
he's at first with 1 away.
Ozzie with that home run in a playoff game against the Dodgers now goes the other way. Beautiful bunt, just pushes it out there. Johnson 2 deep, no chance.
So Smith at first base, 1 away, and the batter Tommy Herr. He had a hit and run base hit his last at bat, and he's grounded to 2nd twice. Kevin McReynolds playing Tommy Herr the same depth as Ozzie Smith. Now, one of them's wrong. And we talk about that so much because that is so important. The opposite fielder, the left fielder for a left-handed hitter, and the right fielder for a right-handed hitter. Jeff Ennis up and throwing. Experience will tell you that guys do not have a lot of power, especially left-handed hitters, the other way. Strike 1, 0-1. strawberry, under the weather. Of course, everybody's under the weather. You're above the weather, under the weather, right? The weather's all around us, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Incidentally, Herr has never hit one out of the park in this season, batting left-handed. He's got one home run, and that was as a right-hand batter. And he has not handled Gooden well.
Whitey Herzog certainly handles the Cardinals well. Smith with 19 stolen bases on the year. He's been caught 4 times. Dwight steps off. May not have liked the pitch selection. It's what you want to do. You want to make sure. Get caught in between. If you want to throw the curveball and the catcher wants the fastball, it's a bad combo. Outside, 1-2. Jack Clark, as we said, the leader in the major leagues in RBIs with 72, having his best year ever. His high for home runs, 27 in his career. He already has 23 this year. Herr fouls it back, still 1-2. Davy Johnson still hasn't gone to the water cooler. Bill Webb's still counting.
He's got one camera set on Davy Johnson in the water cooler.
Webb's newest challenge. Curveball got him. Dwight Gooden with a challenge of his own. 2 outs.
First baseman.
Well, right here, Dwight goes to that good breaking curveball, and it falls right out, actually out of the strike zone. So Herr back to the bench, and now Gooden working to the tough batter, Jack Clark.
I'll tell you, when you strike out 8 Cardinals in a game, that's really a feat. Along with all of their other offensive accomplishments this year, they have struck out the fewest times in the National League. So they do make contact. Strike on the corner to Clark. Clark 0 for 1. He struck out, walked, and a sacrifice fly. 2 career home runs against Gooden. You run Smith here, Ralph?
I got to sit on it.
Let Clark hit, huh?
Yep.
Fastball outside, 1-1. Can't find fault with that reasoning. This is the guy that is leading the National League in game-winning RBIs with 11, and of course RBIs. Smith not running. It's 2-1 to Clark.
Clark muscled a fastball to deep right field his last time up to drive in a run. Fran Healy said he didn't think he hit it on the good part of the bat. He actually didn't. He just is that strong.
He is just so strong. Awesome strength. From New Brighton, Pennsylvania. Came over to the Cardinals for Jose Uribe, Dave LaPointe, David Green. Ooh. Fouls this one back.
And he had a big swing at this one.
Gary Rasich, the other player in that trade. 2-2 to Clark.
Gooden's got him set up for the breaking ball right now. He got to where he is with fastball.
So if you're Clark, you may be looking for it. We'll see.
Fastball got him. A buzzsaw inside. Gooden strikes out the side. The bunt base hit by Smith, the only runner stranded. 9 strikeouts for Gooden. Middle of the 8th. There are the numbers. Mookie Wilson leads it off in the top of the 8th inning against Greg Matthews in a check swing foul, 0-1. Mookie 1 for 3 on the night, entered the game batting .317. William Hayward Wilson, nicknamed Mookie by his grandmother. What an affectionate name, Mookie. Can't dislike anybody named Mookie. Rip. Nice play by Clark. Oh, boy. And had he been on the line, Mookie may have a double. 1 out.
Second baseman, Wally Backman.
Clark started his career in the outfield. He was a fine defensive right fielder with a great arm. Right here, making a fine play at first base.
Against a lot of National League teams, if that wasn't a double, it would have been a much tougher backhand play for a right-handed first baseman. Here's Backman with 1 out, 2-2, bottom of the 8th. Strike on the corner. Looks like Bill Dawley is warming up now for the Cardinals, the right-hander who was in last night's game. All the Cardinal pitchers were in last night's game, it seems. They even had Bob Forsch, who started Saturday's game against Montreal, up and throwing in the 11th inning. 1-1 to Backman. Ball 2, 2-1. Keith Hernandez, the batter, are on deck. Wally Backman, it's 2-1 to Backman. Change up is high, 3-1.
Wally walked on a 3-2 pitch back in the first inning.
And he swings maybe at ball 4.
Surprised he was. I'm really surprised he was swinging away in that pitch. 3-1, close pitch. It might have been high, might have gotten a walk on it.
Yep.
He fouls it off. Backman's 1 for 19 as a right-hand batter.
Well, the count's 3-2 to Wally Backman. Changeup, fouled away. Gives you an idea of how confident Matthews is with that changeup. The circle change, he calls it. The fastball is fouled away, so we'll do it again. The Cardinals have played 2 consecutive extra inning ball games. They're 6-1 in extra inning games. They've won 2 in a row. Won both games 8-7. Sunday afternoon's affair against the Expos in Montreal, and last night against the Mets. Both 11-inning games. Check swing, and there's Clark. And he wins the foot race, 2 outs. And the batter, Keith Hernandez. Keith 0 for 3 on the night. Got his 10th home run in last night's game, a 3-run shot in the first. Looks like Pat Perry, the left-hander,
who was the next to last pitcher last night's ball game. 1-0 to Hernandez. Time is called. So much rhythm to Hernandez's at bats, isn't it, Ralph?
He really settles in. He just has that total concentration, gets himself in great hitting position with that great stance.
Ball 2, 2-0. Fly ball, center field, and playable. Kurt Ford now over, and he makes the play. So the Mets, for the 4th time in this ball game, go down in order. It's a 2-2 game after 8. Dwight Gooden all the way for New York. It's a 2-2 ball game. The Cardinals with 8 hits and the Mets with 6. Willie McGee will lead it off here in the top of the 9th inning. Along with Ralph Kiner and Fran Healy, I'm Tim McCarver. Glad you joined us tonight. And I know you're happy because you are seeing a good Major League Baseball game, in complete contrast to last night's game. Last night was an exciting game, but not a good game. Strike 1, 0-1 to McGee. Strike 2 on the corner, 0-2. You know, a lot of guys like Herzog and Dal Maxville, with the Cardinals having the year they had like last year, they would have completely rearranged the lineup. Fastball misses inside, 1-2, but Herzog and Maxville didn't do that. They stayed pat for the most part over the offseason.
Well, in 1984, Willie McGee, the MVP in the National League. Make that 1985, hitting .353.
Fouls it away. Still 1-2 to Willie.
McGee with a very bad year last year, injured most of the year. In fact, all the Cardinals were playing on off years last year. Pendleton and Pena, the next 2 batters scheduled up for the Cardinals.
The only trade of any significance, I guess, that the Cardinals did make, the Tony Pena trade. Todd Worrell now has joined Bill Hello Dolly in the bullpen. That's a Chris Berman line.
You like that?
Oh, love it. Matter of fact, ESPN has put out a Berman's baseball nicknames, all the nicknames that have been coined by Chris Berman, and they are hilarious. Chris, one of the zanier characters in our business. Delightful. Love it. 2-2 to McGee. Foul ball off the shin of Carter. Boy, he has been taking a beating this year.
That ball, I think, got him right on the top of the foot. Let's look at it again. McGee reaching out, tapping that ball right off his foot. He's had all kinds of balls fouled off each one of his feet. McGee is such an unusual hitter. He goes at the ball in such a different way. A slap type hitter.
But he's got good power. He hit one of the longest balls ever hit at Busch Stadium this year. Gotta have tremendously strong arms to hit like that. Outside, 3-2. He doesn't use his body that much.
Actually, his body is really going another direction from his arms, and still gets those great hands in there. If you saw him hit, you would never copy that style, but he can hit.
Little chopper over the mound. Backman will hurry and got him. So McGee battled Gooden, but Gooden battled McGee, and Dwight got the best of him. 1 out here in the 9th.
Right here, Gooden had been working him outside. He comes inside on this pitch, and look at McGee go out. He fights that ball off, gets his bat on it. Tough man to strike out, and then grounds out weakly to second, but he almost beat the play.
Also, that flat-footed style. You and Fran were talking earlier about hitters on the balls of their feet for balance and for obvious reasons, but not Willie. Terry Pendleton 0 for 3. Another chopper. Tough play for Backman. Got him at first. 2 out.
And another typical Cardinal approach to hitting. Topping the ball, not hitting it hard at all. And another great play at first base. So Backman making an unusually good play here, throwing from that move and getting enough on the ball to pick up the out.
Oh, boy, that was close, wasn't it?
Ooh.
Man. Kurt Ford, the batter. A bang-bang play by Backman. Oh, BB. Ford 2 for 3. He takes a curveball for a strike. Curveball high, 1-1.
One time that Gooden got Ford out, he got him on a 3-2 curveball, got him looking.
Curveball high. I guess you could say that Kurt is a compact Ford, 155 pounds.
Berman calls him Model T Ford.
Model T. Outside, 3-1. Gooden has struck out 9. In 104 Major League starts, he has struck out 10 or more in 32 of them. Tony Pena on deck. Fouled away, 3-2. Here comes the crowd.
They're looking for strikeout number 10.
He struck out Ford on a 3-2 curveball earlier in the game. Another curve hit to deep right center field, but playable. Mazzilli over, and he makes the catch at the edge of the warning track. 3 up, 3 down for the Cardinals in the 9th. The Mets got a chance to win it. It's 2-2, midnight. Sacrifice fly by Jack Clark. And with the score 2-0 favor the Cardinals in the bottom of the 7th, Rafael Santana drove in Howard Johnson and Lee Mazzilli to tie it. Guess he's talking to Davies, talking to Kevin McReynolds about what to do should Carter get on. They'll be all right. Little curly shuffle. All right. That was not a curly shuffle to end that scene. Carter 0 for 3 on the night. He has flied to right, flied to center, and struck out. Matthews has struck out only 2. He's walked 1. Mets have 6 hits, and the changeup is low. You got to give him the fastball and sit on the off-speed stuff right at this juncture. Wouldn't you think?
Yes.
He's shown that that's where he'll go. Another change is high.
When you're in a batting slump, you're almost afraid to take anything like a fastball, which makes it that much more difficult to hit.
Fastball, and he swings through it. 2-1 to Carter.
Had a pretty good pitch to hit there.
Ball 3. Should Carter get on, I'm sure that a pinch runner will be used. Possibly Lynn Dykstra. Maybe Bill Almond if you want to save Dykstra to hit against the right-hander. Ball 4. So we'll see. Only the second walk issued by Greg Matthews.
And it's a leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 9th inning. So the Mets have the winning run at first base, and Dykstra is going to run for Carter.
So also, Ralph, we'll see what Davey Johnson was saying to Kevin McReynolds. While we have a minute here, the Mets want to remind all their fans that USA Today All-Star Balloting is going on at Shea Stadium now through July 6th. So come on out and vote for your favorite player.
Cardinals are not looking for a sacrifice.
But McReynolds squares, and he takes ball 1. Now what do you do?
Now Whitey's going to do something right here. He's got the bullpen ready, and he evidently believes that with the walk to Carter and the first pitch to McReynolds that Matthews has lost it, and he's going out to the mound.
Well, the Cardinals have only 4 complete games all year, and you can well understand Whitey's going to the bullpen. I mean, he got as much as he wanted, stated quite clearly to Fran Healy before the game. Said he wanted 7 out of Matthews. He got 8, and he's satisfied. Well, with Bill Dawley coming in the ball game, a 2-2 game. Lynn Dykstra at first, nobody out in the 9th. Ralph and I will be back right after this.
Bill Dawley on the mound for St. Louis, a record of 4-5. He has 2 saves, an earned run average of 3.83. Working 56 in the 3rd innings, he has given up 49 hits, striking out 40 while walking 17. And with a count of 1 ball and no strikes, Dawley will be pitching to McReynolds. We wonder if McReynolds will be bunting in this spot now. Dykstra used as a pinch runner and not saved as a pinch hitter.
It is interesting as you look at Greg Matthews talking to Gene Gieselman. He didn't have that bad a game.
Maybe he bit his tongue out there.
That's an interesting point, Ralph, because now the Mets are down to 2 left-handed hitters, Dave Magadan and Clint Hurdle, obviously big league hitters, but you're using Dykstra as the pinch runner, who's the best runner, but you got Bill Almond also. Well, McReynolds is bunting, and he takes ball 2. Now do you bunt with him?
I got to let him hit here.
I think you give him 1 shot. We'll see what Davey Johnson's going to do.
Dawley's in a position where he has to come into that strike zone.
Dykstra with 10 stolen bases on the year. Pena, of course, can throw, and there goes Dykstra, and the hit and run was on. So it's 2-1 to McReynolds. Now Johnson may revert to the bunt.
Good play by Davey Johnson right there, putting a runner in motion, hitting and running, trying to get more than just a sacrifice.
If you do bunt him over, they're going to walk Howard Johnson, make Davey make a switch, possibly, if he pinch hits for Santana, but Santana responsible for tying the game up. And the bunt successful. Dawley, however, will go to first. Thought he was going to go to second. He thought wisely not to. Sacrifice successful.
So the Mets with the winning run at second base now with 1 out and Lee Mazzilli the batter. Here's the butt. Dolly thought he had a play at second and then changed his mind. He might have had a play at second. It would have been awfully close. Earlier in the ball game, the Cardinals got a run when Hernandez elected to go to second base and didn't get the ball there in time.
Whitey Herzog out to make a double switch now. He's going to turn Mazzilli around. He does have a left-hander. It looks like Pat Perry warming up. Jose Oquendo, the ex-Met, going into left field. He will bat ninth as the ninth-place hitter is up in the 10th inning if it goes that far. That, by the way, was the first sacrifice of Kevin McReynolds all season long. Dolly's out, and Pat Perry, sure enough, is going to be the pitcher. He will be hitting in Kurt Ford's position, which is the number 7 hole, if you're keeping score at home.
So Pat Perry taking over.
Oh, it's not Pat Perry. It's Ricky Horton. We beg your pardon. Pat Perry was out to throw with Jose Oquendo. So we went for the head fake. So Ricky Horton is going to be the pitcher. And Ralph and I will be back with Ricky Horton and the Mets and the Cardinals after this.
Ricky Horton, the pitcher, with a record of 3-0 and 7 saves, an earned run average of 3.09. He has worked 55 in the third innings, given up 52 hits, striking out 27 and walking 13. Horton, the third pitcher used in this inning by Whitey Herzog. And the Mets with the winning run at second base, 1 man out, and the batter will be Lee Mazzilli. Whitey Herzog, of course, has an option of walking Lee Mazzilli. That would bring up Howard Johnson, which probably will not make Whitey Herzog walk Lee Mazzilli in this spot. But
you can either walk Mazzilli or Johnson.
If they get Mazzilli out, they surely would walk Howard Johnson. As surely as you can be, nothing is sure in this game.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that, if you walk Mazzilli, you are going to be pitching to a red-hot Howard Johnson from the right side. He entered the game batting .325 as a right-hander, and sure enough, they're going to walk Mazzilli.
Going to walk Mazzilli to get to Howard Johnson. And, of course, a walk does set up the potential double play.
On the year, Howard Johnson has 56 hits and 83 at-bats as a right-handed hitter. I beg your pardon, 28 hits out of 83 at-bats. So he's 28 for 83 right-handed, batting only .227 left-handed. So why wouldn't you leave Dolly in to hit again? I guess Whitey is not going with the percentages. He's going with Ricky Horton.
He's going with his pitcher, hoping that his pitcher can overcome the difficulty of a left-hand pitcher pitching to a right-hand batter. And hoping that he'll get a ground ball and get the double play.
So if you're Johnson, you're looking for the sinker then, right?
Absolutely.
Horton with that sinker away, and if right-handers try to pull him, they'll pull it to shortstop. The Cardinals also have to watch the guy in the bottom of your screen, Len Dykstra. And there's the sinker, swing and a miss, 0-1.
Johnson there with a swing that was a pull hitter's swing. He was way out in front of that sinking fastball.
So Dykstra a threat to run at second. 0-1 to Johnson, 1 out, a 2-2 game, bottom of the 9th inning. Dykstra with another step off, and Horton stepped off. Barry Lyons has a bat. Nobody warming in the Cardinal bullpen, so it's up to Horton. Line drive, base hit. Here comes Dykstra. This game's history. The Mets win a final ball game, 3-2. Dwight Gooden with game number 5 under his belt.
right here against the percentage. Whitey Herzog plays it the opposite way from the percentage, walking Lee Mazzulli and pitching to the right-hand batter, Howard Johnson, who has been the Mets' hottest hitter. And Johnson coming through with a line drive base at the left field. And the Mets win it by a score of 3-2. A great come-from-behind victory for the Mets. And that is the first time this year that the Cardinals have taken the lead and lost it. So now Gooden comes up as a winning pitcher in the ball game. Dwight now 5-1 in the year. A big pitching performance from Dwight Gooden as he comes out to congratulate Howard Johnson and the Mets as the winning run scores. Dykstra coming in from second after a walk to Carter. Dykstra a pinch runner, and then the sacrifice, and then the intentional walk to Lee Mazzulli. So Whitey Herzog that time defying the percentages, and now he can go get a drink of water.
Well, if you're looking at the percentages, I'll tell you, you would see that Howard Johnson, a much better hitter, 100 points higher, over 100 points higher this year as a right-handed hitter. The strategy backfires. Dwight Gooden, by the way, pitches his second complete game. His record now 5-1.